Hi, welcome to our lesson on intercepts. Intercepts are going to be really important for us, especially once we get into word problems, because they're going to have applications that are really useful. They're going to tell us things about what happens in the story. First is our couple definitions. Our x-intercept is anywhere that the graph crosses the x-axis. Just like in football, somebody throws the football, another guy comes over and intercepts the ball. He is running into its path. He is intersecting with it. He is crossing it. So where's our x-intercept? It's where our line crosses the x-axis. It's always going to have a y value of 0, and it's always going to be written as an ordered pair of some number, comma 0. You'll see more about this later. The y-intercept is anywhere that the graph crosses the y-axis. In the same way, it'll have x values of 0 and an ordered pair of 0, comma, whatever the y-intercept is. So as I start looking at graphs, we're going to see a couple of different things that we have to think about. The first question is, how many intersects does the above graph have? So how many times does it cross the x-axis? Well, it crosses 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So since it crosses 4 times, I need to make sure I say 4. And it says, what are they? Well, the first one is going to be 1, 2, 3, negative 4, 0. My second point is going to be negative 2, 0. My third point is going to be 1, 0. My fourth point is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Make sure that as you do this, that you read your directions, figure out exactly how your teacher wants you to state it. I think the most typical way is to put a comma in between your ordered pairs. It makes it look a little cluttered, but it's the technical way of listing things. How many y-intercepts does the graph have? How many times does it cross the y-axis? It only crosses once. It's right there. And so what is that point? That point is going to be 0, negative 2. Okay? Now, as we start talking more about lines, you're going to find out that typically a graph of a line is only going to have one x-intercept and one y-intercept, typically. I guess there can be a couple of exceptions, but we talk more about that later. Note it. Our intercepts are going to be really useful because as we start trying to plug in points, we're going to find out that 0 is really the easiest thing to use. It's typically the easiest thing to multiply by. So in some cases, I'm going to specifically ask you to graph using the intercepts. So the x-intercept, like I said in the previous page, is where y equals 0. So all I'm going to do is substitute in 0 for y. X minus 0 equals 3. X minus 0 is just x. So therefore x equals 3. And that gives me an ordered pair of 3, 0. So I'm going to go to my line, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put it there. My y-intercept is going to be where x equals 0. So I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to go 0 minus y equals 3. 0 minus y is negative y equals 3. I know there's an understood 1 right here. And so in order to get y by itself, I divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, and I find out that y equals negative 3. So I now have a point of 0, negative 3. I plot it here. Once again, if you want to plot a third point to check your values, you could. I'm going to go ahead and graph it for the sake of time. So there's my line. Plugging in x is 0 and y is 0 is typically pretty easy. Sometimes you're going to find that your x and y intercepts are exactly the same, which is what's going to happen here. So if I plug in y equals 0, then I go 3 times 0 equals x. 3 times 0 is 0. And so therefore my ordered pair is 0, 0. And just in case you weren't paying enough attention to notice that you had 0, 0, therefore x is 0, so therefore this is also your x-intercept. Let's plug that in for the sake of checking it. So I go 3y equals 0. Divide by 3, divide by 3. Therefore y equals 0. Once again, I have a point 0, 0. Put my point there. Now I've run into a problem. In the last lesson we talked about how you need exactly 2 points to define a line. A third point can check. I've only got 1 point. I don't know if the line goes here, I don't know if the line goes here, or if you go any direction through there. So in order to graph it, I'm going to plug in one more point. I've got 3 times y equals x. 3y is probably a little bit more complicated. It'd be easy for me to plug in there. So I'm going to plug in y equals 1. So I'm going to go 3 times 1 equals x, this is y equals 1. So therefore 3 equals x, and my ordered pair will be 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, and there we go. Draw my line, and I'm good to go. And so as you process through all of our lesson on intercepts, one of the biggest things you're going to have to do is to learn to identify intercept and list them and label them. This is really just so you can get in the practice of finding the intercepts and try to cement that definition into your head. And then when you regraph, make sure that you find those specific points. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.